I would like this session to be a little bit more interactive. So if you have anything to ask or any comments or any suggestion, you can put in the chat box. So in between any questions if you have, you can put in the chat box and we will have a reply at the end of the session. Uh, so shall we start now? Nasha, am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so let us start now. Uh, Next slide. So as you all know, first we will have a glance at how this automobile industry evolved. So what was the need for an automobile industry? So as you all know, from the way back, like in 1910 or 1920s, we used to have a horse cart system. The horse will be pulling the three-wheeled vehicle. So with the horsepower only, they will be used to move around. But there, it was not sufficient, right? Like there was a need for transformation to go into a automobile sector. So in the next slide, we will have a glance at what was the need for the transformation. Next slide, please. So, as I told you, like in 90s or not two, like there was around some 26 million horses. So all these horses was creating more of road congestion and more pollution, and also the credibility of horse system was not that good as compared to our right now automobile system. So there was more of wastage and more of pollution which was coming onto the road. So people used to think that we have to get into some system which is more mechanical, which is more machine dependent, not life dependent. So that led to the need to get an automobile vehicle, an automotive mechanical vehicle into the road. Next slide. So any one of you want to just guess like who invented the first automobile? You can put in chat box. Anyone want to try? He is also the father of automobile.
So, so Ford, sir.
Uh, Not correct, but yeah, it's a good guess actually. Very good guess actually. Anyone else? Just guess it. Just like you have many top models, top cars available, right? Okay, I will go to the next. Yeah. Who is this? Ashish Patel. Ashish Patel has told Carl Benz that is actually the right answer. Next slide, Jan. So Carl Benz and Daimler. Actually, I will tell you the story. Like in 1886, in Germany, everyone was behind something which is more mechanical to move for transportation to move people around from one place to another. So Carl Benz, he designed a three-wheeled single-cylinder two-stroke engine, but it was a three-wheel, not it was not a four-wheel. So that was the first vehicle to remove the horse setup and put a engine setup onto the vehicle. On the same time, in same place, Germany, Mr. Daimler was also designing the car, but he designed it. He designed a four-wheel single cylinder two-stroke engine. So the only difference between Daimler and Carl Benz was Carl Benz initial setup was three-wheel and Daimler's was four-wheel. But since Carl Benz had patented everything on his name and Daimler was very slow to patent it, so the first official automobile manufacturer invention was it has gone to Carl Benz, and he has patented it everything. And but later, if you see some 30 years, 40 years after that, they both joined together. Carl Benz, Daimler, and Maybach. They everyone joined together and they formed a group. Can anyone guess which group it was? It is right now also it is available. The group involving Carl Benz, Daimler, and Maybach. Okay, as the name suggests, it is Mercedes-Benz Group, which is also Daimler Group. It involves all the Daimler, Mercedes-Benz, and Maybach. Maybach is a luxurious sports car developed by Mercedes-Benz. So these three combined and formed a group later on to develop to take the industry into higher levels. Next slide, please. So this was that three wheeled vehicle which I was talking about, which Carl Benz invented. After Daimler invented that four wheel, then Carl Benz also started developing the four wheel vehicle, and it got patent for that. Next slide, please. So, as Alan Mark told about Ford in his answer, yes, for Mr. Ford, Henry Ford indeed did a actually more revolutionary work in automotive sector. He was the one who developed the first assembly line, and he was the one who started the mass production cars. Before, the Carl Benz and Daimler, whichever they produced, was it was very produced volume. But Ford was the one who made an assembly factory as it is now. So, as you know, the Ford Motor Company headquarters has been in Detroit. So, from there they operated and they produced the Model T, which is one of the like in old time, which is one of the most successful and most mass produced cars. Next slide. So this was the moving assembly line. So Henry Ford is also the father of moving assembly line. So he is the one who started producing vehicle in a production line with all the moving conveyor. So as you see on the center in the left side of the picture, it is a moving conveyor, and both on the left and the right side, the operator will be assembling the part. So this is the one which is developed into right now industries. If you visit any of the industry like Ford, Hyundai, or Daimler, you can see the production line. So the basis of the production line had came from the moving assembly line introduced by Mr. Henry Ford. So as you see, the vehicle coming out on the right side is Model T. The Model T was one of the most successful vehicle produced by Ford Motor Company. Around some 15 millions they were able to produce and sell it. So that was a big achievement at that time, which made vehicle more available to common man. Next slide, Nancy. Then as the production line furthermore it developed it from the German, it went to France, where we had Peugeot and all. They were working some more in the production line improvement. Then it went to Japanese side. From Japanese side, they were more focused on the quality rather than the production volume. They were more focused on the quality, and they had developed many of the quality parameters. As you all know, I think you might have studied lean manufacturing, say Six Sigma technology, Kaizen technology. So all this was developed by Toyota in order to improve the quality and minimize the wastage. So it is kind of benchmark for us industries even right now. Like, all this technology was developed in some mid 19th century, but right in 2020 or 2021 also, we are using the same technology in much refurbished way. So this was a journey of automobile, like how we started from a horse cart to the modern assembly line which we have right now, and all the quality parameters and production parameters. So this is how we evolved to reach the present point. Next slide, please. So next we will have a look at some of the like breakthrough technologies. For in every technology we have some breakthrough point, right? If in case of like transportation, we were using, for example, we were using the bike or car. Then suddenly Ola and Uber came in. So that was a breakthrough point in case of shared mobility. So similarly, in our automobile technology, we will have focus on some of the breakthrough technology or some of the innovations which lead to a successful automobile which we have now. Next slide, please. So first of all, we will start with the material of construction. So initially, in the starting period, when the Carl Benz and Daimler or Mr. Ford introduced automobile to the world, it was mostly in wood. Why it was in wood? Because it was lightweight, and it was easy. It was easier to available to the market, and it was easy to fabricate. Actually, we can cut the wood in any shape. We don't have to do much of machining. So this was the reason they used more wood. Then as it evolved, there was an introduction of steel, but not a fully steel body. It was steel and wood mix. Mostly the wheel, everything will be in wood, and the platform will be in wood, but the chassis or the suspension, everything will be in steel body. So like this, it evolved, and as you know, now we are using steel, fully developed steel. So we are not using any other component anywhere. Can anyone guess which grade of steel we are using right now? Is it stainless steel or mild steel, or any wild guess in the chat, please?
So carbon steel or MS?
Yeah, close to that. It is almost close to carbon steel. It is actually a high strength steel. It is called as AHSS. So it is a mix of mild steel and carbon steel, and in order to get more strength, it is hardened. So right now, like if any of the car, if you go, it will have some panel thickness of zero point 0.7 or zero point 0.8, or it depends on the car to car. Like if you go for Maruti car, it will have a 0.67 thickness. If you go to Hyundai car, it will be 0.7 thickness. If you go to higher end like Volkswagen or some superior quality cars, it will have some 0.8 to 0.9 mm thickness. So the material used for constructing a car right now is AHSS, which is around 0.7, 0.8 mm thickness. If you go to future, like I think you might have seen many of the sports cars, and you might have seen the racing cars. So most of them will be using carbon fiber technology. So it is a reinforced polymer kind of thing. So right now, many of the sports cars are using aluminum and carbon fiber technology. If you see some of the like higher end Porsche car like Audi, R5 and all, they will be using aluminum material. Uh, can anyone tell me why we cannot use aluminum material in like our common car, for example, Maruti 800 or Hyundai Creta? Why can't we go with aluminum?
So cost of production is high, sir.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. I mean, very good, very good. Actually, cost is the main barrier here. The cost of production is secondary, but the cost of material is main barrier. So, considering the cost factor, we are going right now with high strength steel. Uh, but where the cost is not, where like the luxury car, where the cost is not at all a matter, we can go with aluminum. Next slide, please. So this was one of the breakthrough, most innovative technology in the automobile sector. So, like you might have seen in some of the movies, like in old movies, we used to crank it by hand. So there will be a lever available, and that lever we will connect it to crankshaft. And in order to rotate the pulley, we will be rotating with hand. And don't go for the video. Like I think it will take some 15 minutes to crank, around some 15 to 20 minutes to start a car. So it was like very difficult till 1911. 1911, General Motors came with a very innovative technology called electric starter. Electric starter motor is it uses electric current to start the engine. It uses the current from the battery. Already the 12-volt battery which is available in our car, it uses as soon as we crank the key, it will take the power from the battery 12 volt, and it uses it to start the engine. And once the engine is started, it will cut off the battery, and the whole power will be used from the engine. So this was one of the most breakthrough technology used in automobile. Next slide, please. So I think you all might have guessed the car which it is. Like it is one of the most produced car till now in India. So most produced and most favorite, one of the most favorite cars in India. So it is Suzuki Maruti 800. So this was also in next it also started an era in Indian market. So before that, we used to produce very heavy cars like Padmini and all, Ambassador Padmini. We used to produce very heavy car, which were, and the volume was also less. It was not affordable for the common man. So only a person with some with some cash in hand can only buy that. But once the 800 was introduced to the market, it revolutionized many things. It brought the cost of the car down. It made the car more lightweight, and also the mileage factor also increased with 800. So this was also a revolution as Indian market is considered. So next slide, please. Okay, so this was in 1959. Prior to 1959, there was no seat belt in the seat. There was no safety system. As soon as the car hits something, the driver used to hit his head in the steering wheel or in the glass. So there, the safety factor was not there till 1959. But at 1959, an engineer, a Volvo engineer, he by himself developed a three-point safety belt. It is called three-point because it is attached on the three side. uh, does anyone knows the name of this engineer? Okay, I think it's a little bit difficult actually. Nils Bohlen. So Nils Bohlen was the engineer who developed this three-point safety belt. He patented it in his name. But like the most important part about this is like after 2 years they removed the patent and they made it available for entire automobile companies to use it, because as per Volvo it was like it is the one of the basic and most important feature in automobile to ensure the safety of the passenger. So they made this patent available to everyone free of cost, so that everyone which whoever is having like it is a 3 point, it is still a 3 point safety belt. There is no much improvement or much radical changes in that, but some improvement have been made because some like height adjuster or some small adjustment had been done. But the initial patent was Volvo's, which he made it free to the market so that everyone can use it. So it was regarded as like one of the top 10 patent of the century actually. So this kind gesture from Volvo made it available to every one of us now. Next slide. So as you know, as like I think everyone of you have this in bike. So everyone will have a disc brake in bike. So disc brake was introduced around some 1920s actually, but it was not like suitable for mass production because the disc brake material was not available. Initially, they used to use a copper material, but the copper material, as you know, that it won't last long. It will get heat very quickly. So it was not, and because of the road condition at that point, it was not suitable for mass production. So it got many changes, it got many improvement, and at last it was introduced as current scenario in 1950. So in 1950 in Le Mans racing, first time it was introduced by Porsche. So it with a round disc and with a hole to heat, dissipate the heat. The material used at that time was stainless steel. Now there are many reinforced polymers available for that, and many carbon steel also has been added. So now it has been more enhanced, and it has also hydraulic system has also been added to it. Before it was in brake shoe type of technology. So this also revolutionized the braking system, because earlier we used to use a shoe brake, which used to which in where the friction was also very low, and the shoe brake was also getting dissipated very easily. But this brake actually revolutionized the racing sector, because the car was able to be stopped more quickly and more easily. Next line, man. So I have I have also put in presentation notable rivalries. So why I have put that in here is like there are many rivalries which all enhance the automobile sector, which lead to more innovation because of the rivalry. So I wanted to list out some few in this presentation. Next slide, ma'am. I think many of you might be knowing about the rivalry between Ferrari and Lamborghini. Uh, Anyone who has some idea about this?
So the story or
The story, like how Lamborghini was developed, to be precise.
uh, Lamborghini was a tractor company, I guess.
Yes, yeah, right.
Then I think he went to buy or he went to see Ferraris. So
Okay.
they were ill-treated. The Lamborghini, the owner of the Lamborghini was ill-treated. So he thought of why shouldn't I create my own company so that
Yeah.
I can beat Ferrari. So that's how they. I guess, sir. I'm not sure, but this is our.
No, very good try actually. Actually, you are some 80% you are correct. Very good. Next slide, Nyan. So I will tell about the story which Alan told. It is almost correct. So actually, the Ferruccio Lamborghini, he was from a farmer background. So his family was in farming business, but he was not very much into farming. So he was more interested in mechanical side. So he started developing his own tractors to which would help his family in farming. So once in the name of Lamborghini, of course. So once the tractors got hit, he became somewhat wealthy, and he started as he was very much interested in cars. He started buying Ferrari cars because he very much appreciated the look and the portness of the Ferrari. So he started owning many Ferrari cars. But like he was like as I told you that he himself built a tractor, so he was basically a mechanic. So he knew very he had a very good knowledge about the car parts and all. So he felt that his Ferrari cars was not having a very good clutch system. The internal clutch used to fail very often when he goes at a higher speed, and at higher speed it was more of noisy also. So he felt that the clutch can be improved in the Ferrari. So with a proposal to improve the clutch system and to make the engine less noisy, he went to Mr. Enzo Ferrari. So Enzo Ferrari, as you all might be knowing, he was the owner of the Ferrari. And at that period, in the late 1950 to 1930, 60, at that period, the Ferrari was at its peak. The Ferrari was the only luxury racing car available at that time, and nobody could beat Ferrari at that point of time. So, and Mr. Enzo Ferrari was because of his self pride, he didn't acknowledge Mr. Lamborghini, and he told him that a small tractor company owner cannot advise me to improve my luxury car. So this was a statement by him, which Mr. Federico Lamborghini took very personally and took very seriously, and he went and his only sole motive become to beat the Ferrari in his at his best. At his best means at the racing segment. So he didn't wanted to produce a mass car. His only aim was to produce a car which could beat a Ferrari. So what he did, he applied the same tractor engine and technology into a car and made it and designed it to beat the aerodynamics perspective. And after that, he came to invent the Lamborghini. And as you all know, that right now Lamborghini is like in a luxury sports car segment. It is in the top of Ferrari. So he was able to achieve. So this is one of the good lesson we can learn from the automobile industry. Like if somebody hurts you or somebody brings you down, you can go above him by doing something in that work. You should not have to take this personally and do something to him personally. You can show him your talent and you can be more than him what he is in that field. So this is one of the example. Next slide, Nancy. I think everybody would have watched this movie, Ferrari versus Ford. I hope so. So this is one of the excellent movies. If you haven't watched, I would please recommend you to watch this. So this is also similar to what happened to Lamborghini. Ford was, as I told you, that Henry Ford made Ford a productive car. It was more of a car which belongs to common man. But the thing with what happened to Ford is after some time the people got bored with their cars. They were producing the same sort of car in same sort of technology, and there was nothing much changing. The speed was not changing, the look was not changing. So they find it very boring, and they went. Then their sales marketing head or superior executives head, they decided to have a tie-up with Ferrari because, as I told you before, Ferrari was making some top-notch luxury sports racing car. So it was like a brand. It was like the people used to buy the car in the name of Ferrari brand itself. So he wanted to go. Ford wanted to have a tie-up with them, but as in the case of similar to the case of Lamborghini, Mr. Lamborghini, the Ford also faced like a personal harassment in the hands of Enzo Ferrari because Enzo Ferrari was at that time at its peak, so didn't wanted to have a tie-up or he didn't want to listen to anyone. So after that, Mr. Henry Ford II, he took this as personal and he started building a race team. which will be competing in 24 hours Le Mans racing. So the Le Mans racing was at the time it was a prestige issue for all the top racing companies. It will be 24 hours race, and it was like defining movement for Ford. They won the race after lots of struggle and lot of improvement. They developed a car which could compete with Ferrari, which was even better than Ferrari, and they started in the racing competition, and they won it in from 1966 to 1969. So this was also like a changeover for Ford from being a mass productive common man's car to a luxury sporting car. So now they have, as you know, now we have Ford Mustang. So everything came from this background. So since they started developing the sports car, they went for Mustang and many other luxurious Ford vehicle available right now. So this is also a good learning for us. We can always compete with our enemies. We can always compete with them, and we can take over them in their own segment. Next slide, please. Anyone has any query, like any query or anything to discuss till now? If anything is there, you can please put it in the chat box.
So what is the problems you face in your industry right now, sir? I mean, in your company right now, what are the problems?
Uh, right now, the actually right now it is the problem is we don't as you all you might have heard about Industry 4.0, right? So Industry 4.0 is something like which is related to more of robot and less of manpower. So right now, at present, if you're asking me what problem we are facing is we have manpower available in the assembly line, but we are not able to put that manpower in line because of the correct pandemic. So in order to run the line, we need some manpower, which they have to be safe enough to work in the line. So next, if you're asking me about next 10 to 15 years, the changes which will happen in the industry, it will be IoT, which is directly related to Industry 4.0, where everything will be more on automized. Where it will be less manpower dependent, but it will be manpower dependent, but less of manpower dependent, but more of like it will be a statistical view. Everything, if any breakdown happens, also we will be knowing before the breakdown happens how to correct the breakdown, from where to get the material. So everything will be based on a statistics, and everything will be in a digital platform. So at present, the main issue which we are facing is the more of manpower dependency and less of digitalization in automobile sector. So next, deep learning, IoT, everything will be more into will be more into play. If you ask me, after 10 years.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. So then, I've heard many people saying, even in conference, that mechanical students won't have future. They need to upgrade themselves. They need to study electronics. They need to they need to learn mechatronics. All those stuff. What is the point of view? Is that true, or is that wrong? I mean, is that wrong, sir?
Uh, it's not exactly true, but it's not the difference is like if you want to be in a same position or same company or same whatever you're doing in mechanical sector, you have to learn only mechanical. But if you want to go to next level, if you want to go to higher level, if you want to be expert of something, you need to upgrade yourself other than mechanical. See, the basic mentality which including me or all the mechanical engineers who are passed out or who are studying now, is that mechanical will not see other things, other system. Mechanical engineering students will not listen to other, say, computer science or electronics or any other thing. But it's not true at the current point of view. As I told you that everything has been stagnant as per mechanical sector. The engine which we are using, the TM which we are using, the assembly line which we are using, all are like 30 years, 50 years old. So if you want to upgrade yourself, if you want to go to next level, digitalization is the next level. And digitalization will not come only by knowing the mechanical point of view. If you want to upgrade yourself, you have to learn something related to CS, somewhat of CS, somewhat of mechatronics, something from electronics. Then only you can go with deep learning, IoT, or like that kind of stuff. So it is it is not only applicable to mechanical industry actually. If you go with CS in the CS also, like you are telling that I am a mechanical student, they have something like I have learned Python or I have learned Java. So if you see the students who are in CS now, they have learned only Java. But if you learn only Java, you can get a job, but you can't succeed in that job. So you have to combine Java with mainframe or Java with Python or right now whichever technology is available. So if you see CS industry or CS background persons are always upgrading themselves with new technology. They are going out of the box. But now our mechanical students, we are not ready to go out of the box because we are constrained to only the mechanical parts or physical parts which can be seen by us. We don't really trust the CS background sort of things. So I getting job only mechanical is required. That is not a issue. Upgrading yourself, getting a good job, or going to more better position. Definitely, you have to have some knowledge of the present trends in automobile. That is deep learning, IoT, or electrical vehicle. So you can't simply design or you cannot simply manufacture a electric vehicle by only knowing mechanical parts, because electrical vehicle will have more of electric parts and it has also mechanical parts. But you cannot simply go to a electric vehicle company by knowing only mechanical. So first of all, you have to choose which where you are comfortable. Are you comfortable in electric side, or you are comfortable in Python or CS side, or you are comfortable in some like PLC or something mechatronics. So it's always good to have a couple of talent in you to get a better job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
what is the toughest interview question you faced or you've heard of, sir? What is the toughest interview question?
The first interview question, as you know in my profile, it's like 6 years old. So I think the question which I faced will be a past question now. So now the if you are preparing, as per my opinion, if you are preparing right now, you have to focus more on the current trends, because whichever interview I have attended, everybody will be asking one common question: what are the trends, future trends, current trends in our automobile industry? So current trends, you have to know it 100%. There is no other option. But if you know the future trends thoroughly, then there is a good chance for you, because people recruit you on the basis of future. They won't recruit you seeing your present, like how you are performing. They recruit you like how you will be performing for the company post 5 years from now. Because post 5 years from now, you will be in some good position in that company. So I think if you have to focus more on future trends, like the deep learning or IoT Industry 4.0, PLC, like that kind of things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And one more thing, like one more point I want to add on this: nobody in the interview will focus more on like draw an auto cycle, or what is the difference, how the two-stroke mechanism works. So you don't have to go too much deeply into mechanical. You have to know the what is happening. I think apart from your academic lessons which you are getting from your professor, you have to know the trends also. You have to read some auto magazine. You have to know what is happening right now in the auto industry, how it is proceeding, what will happen in the future. So that will, like, suddenly 1 month before you cannot know all this. So if you are attending an interview 1 year from now, you have to start right now. You have to start right now. How is the industry going? What they are doing? How is the assembly line working? So everything you need to have. So that will always help on. You cannot only depend on academic session.
So thank you, sir. Thank you. So what's the current trend in the automobile industry, sir? Current
Yeah,
trend.
yeah,
Apart from autonomous, what is the current trend?
yeah. So we are going to that only current trends in automobile industry only. So now we will see some of the trends, current and future trends, which is happening in automobile industry. Next line, yes. Okay, so first we will have a look into 3D printed piston. So why I have put this is like, as you all know, 3D technology, 3D printing technology is at a boom right now. So maybe like after some 10 years or 15 years, we expect 3D technology to be far more superior than it is now. So why, like, Can anyone tell you why we are going with 3D printing technology? Okay, I will share with you like 3D printing technology. Basically, in automobile industry, why we are going is to reduce the time to develop a part, time to and we can take a more trial with that. So if you take like if you develop a full mechanical engineered part, you if you take a trial, if something goes wrong, you again it will take some time to develop a new part. But in case of 3D technology, it just depends on the parameter. So once if you take a trial, you can again go easily to next trial. So the time to develop a part and the cost to develop a part, everything comes down in case of 3D printing. So like in 2020, in mid of pandemic, actually Porsche released this news of a 3D printed piston. So this was like a bombshell to everyone because 3D printing part, that too in real car condition, whether it was possible or not, nobody would have imagined. So they made it with an aluminum alloy, and they developed it using a bionic design, and they put that 3D printed piston inside Porsche 911, and they made a trial with that. So, and the result of the trial was astonishing because the piston got 10% lighter than it is current right now available. It gave more efficiency, and also the horsepower increased to up to 30 horsepower as compared to the current Porsche 911. So this is like a now the talk of the town. If the piston can be successfully made 3D printed for a mass production car, it will be a revolutionizing technology. So this 3D printing also you need to focus more when you come to future trends. Next slide. And I think everybody as a mechanical student might be knowing about aerodynamics. So I am not going to explain about aerodynamics. What I'm going to explain here is like there was a new design which came in aerodynamics. The design was introduced in Bugatti Bolide. Uh, in the next slide I will tell you more about the design actually. Next slide. I think everybody of you might have seen golf ball, right? So in the golf ball, there are many dimples available. There will be small holes available. Does any one of you know why this hole were given in the golf ball? Why it was not a solid round? Any guess?
For grip, sir. For grip.
For grip, okay. Any other? That was a good guess. Any other one? Anyone want to guess?
Uh, for aerodynamic purpose. So,
Okay, for aerodynamic purpose. Anyone else? Okay, as you might have seen, the golf ball will go twice the distance when compared to a solid plastic ball or solid rubber ball or any ball which is available in the market. If you see the travel or the trajectory of a golf ball will be twice or thrice of with the present ball. Why this is possible in golf ball is as Alan told, it is more aerodynamically made. Like the dimples provided in the golf ball will create a turbulence and will make the drag force or the drag air which comes opposite to the golf ball to go slide and go in the opposite direction to enhance to enhance the trajectory of the golf ball. So this dimple is actually making a turbulence inside the air. So because of this turbulence, the ball is more able to overcome the drag force, and it has to travel more distance because of this. So same golf ball technology Bugatti Bolide used on the top of their roof, because as you know the drag force is maximum acting on the roof. Earlier in our car, normal our cars, it will be acting in the front also, because our hood design or our front bumper design won't be that much turbulent. But if you see the sports car, as you can see in the left of the picture about the Bugatti Bolide design, the front of the hood portion or the bumper portion will be aerodynamically designed. So the maximum of the drag force will be available in the top of the roof. So in the top of the roof, they gave many dimples, which made the drag force less because it increased the turbulence of air in that dimple portion. Uh, and they tested it in Le Mans Racing. Actually, Le Mans Racing said they tested this car for top speed. Can anyone have a wild guess? Like as you know, like our cars right now, our Indian cars will have a top speed of around some 180, 190, in that range, maybe 200 in that range. Can you guess what will be the top speed of this Bugatti Bolide? Just a guess, just a wild guess. How much it can go? Any number?
I think they limit it to 400, sir, because they don't know how much it'll the top speed they have not calculated because of the engine's power. I mean, so high.
Yeah. Very good, Alan. Actually, the top speed, as Alan told, is 400, but it is not. It is not theoretically the top speed. It is like in practical condition, they have made it up to four. They have tested it to 400 kilometer per hour. But theoretical while it can go more than that. But they don't know. Like there is no racing track facility or there is no driving facility available for that. So this is also sector like before aerodynamic designing was already well established in automobile industry. But if you see that current this kind of innovation in technology, only he just did a simple thing, right? He put a dimple on the roof panel where the air is flowing. So this kind of innovation is also been coming, and it is also a line where you can focus more. Next slide, please. So apart from this, mobility is a booming trend right now. Like if you are into this sector, you will get a if you have good knowledge in this sector, you will get a job very easily right now because every company, not only the automobile company, every company or manufacturers are focusing more on autonomous car, on connected cars and electric vehicles. And shared mobility is already easy in a boom right now. So we'll focus on this four point: connected cars, autonomous cars, shared mobility, and electric vehicles. Next slide, please. So connected car uses a AI technology, artificial intelligence. It is not only that the car is connected to each other, the car could communicate to each other, but there are many types of communication: vehicle to vehicle communication, or communication through internet, or communication through mobile, smartphone, or communication through any OS. So there are many kind of communication which is happening right now. At present technology, we have only smartphone connectivity to your automobile. If you own a car, you can connect it to the smartphone. Now, next level BlueLink technology we have introduced. So BlueLink technology is basically that you can operate some of the functions of the car with your smartphone, like AC on, engine on, door lock unlock, and you can also call if you want. If there is some emergency, there is a SOS. So SOS system basically connect to the network. So that is another type of connectivity, connecting car to a network. So you will have some 2 3 number. You will give some 2 3 emergency number to your dealer or retailer, and in case some SOS switch is pressed or in case some emergency happens, directly the call will be connecting to that concerned person. So that is another type of connectivity. So all mobility connectivity is not only car to car. I will again repeat: it is connecting car to everything around. It is like connecting car to the environment surrounding it. Next slide, please. As I told you, we have tethered network and we have embedded network. We have two types of connectivity. So embedded network is like directly connecting to the internet. Like I already said, told you, like connecting to internet access network range, or connecting to a cell phone, laptop, traffic. What is the traffic right now? Which route is better? So everything connecting is called embedded network. That is directly connecting to the internet. And tethered network is connecting directly to the smartphone. So you can access only smartphone. Whatever call you are coming to your mobile, you can directly take that call, or you can play the song. So basically, your mobile is tethered to your car. Next slide, please. So as I told you before, like there are many types of connectivity: internet connectivity, application to car connectivity, and driver safety connectivity, remote parking. So there are many advantages, and there are many. It is actually a vast area. Like we are only part by part. We are only going into this. Like now, many persons are trying for vehicle to vehicle. Many companies are trying for vehicle to vehicle connectivity, and many are already established the internet connectivity and smartphone connectivity. Now you can directly connect your laptop also to your car through iOS setup. So Apple CarPlay. So everyone is going step by step, but it's like a very huge and vast area. So there are many like benefit. If you see, I have listed a few. There are some safety, but of course there is a safety benefit. You can there will be a violation warning whenever you will go beyond some speed. It will give you a warning in your cluster. It will show an alarm message, and you can keep a track of that. If, for example, some persons like while accelerating, their focus might be disturbed, and but the car will be accelerating. So at some 80 point of view or some 90 kilometer odd kilometer per hour, it will give an alarm. Curve speed warning is for basically for turning, like how much distance you have to turn and what angle you should keep. So if it actually literally give you a path, at which path you have to turn. So it's like playing like a video game. You have to turn that in that path. Second is mobility benefit that already I discussed with you. Smart traffic signal, which traffic signal is best, and adaptive cruise control is basically the whenever the car like if you're going with 70 kilometer per hour and you put a cruise control on, it will be in that 70 kilometer per hour speed, and you don't have to put on accelerator until you apply brake. The cruise control will allow the car to move in 70 kilometer per hour. But if some car comes in front of that, automatically it will slow down and the brakes will be applied. So that is smart cruise control or adaptive cruise control. And there are environment benefits like low emission and eco signal application. Next slide. Yeah. So next we'll go to autonomous mobility. Autonomous mobility is basically driverless car. So this is like all like what is the need for driverless car actually? Because 94% of accident which is happening right now is because of human error. And as the people are going, they want someone to drive their car so that they might maybe more safe. So putting a human driver again in the driving seat is not good. So we are going with driverless car so that the person sitting in front can be safe. And as you know very well, in India, like most of the time we are spending in traffic because of traffic congestion, because we are not following the lane. We are going in variable speed. We are moving from one lane to another very quickly. So this reason can be avoided if we go with a driverless car. Next slide. So autonomous car, already there have been many trials taken by many top companies like Tesla, Google, even Ola has been trying it out right now. Honda is already developing. So many companies have they are in the prototype stage. So it is yet to be a fully fit car which can be driven at the road because of many constraints. So basically, it uses many sensor, radar, and camera for its operation. So it will calculate everything which is on the surrounding, and it will let the car ECU, electronic control unit, know that this is the distance between the next object, and this is where you have to take a turn or you have to accelerate. Next slide. No? So how does AV, autonomous vehicle, improve mobility? Is like, as I told you before, accident can be eliminated. It is more fuel economy because you don't have to always press the clutch and brake. It by itself will calculate, and it will engage the gear as such, and it will reduce the traffic congestion. As you can see that if all the vehicles are in lane, one lane following system is there, then there is no issue with traffic congestion. If one lane is congested, the people can go in other lane very easily. So, and it is also providing you the real-time analysis of what is the traffic and which road is much easier to go, where there is less traffic. So it will save some travel time for everyone. Next slide. Then we will talk about shared mobility. Shared mobility is like sharing your vehicle, or sharing means using a common platform to move from one place to another. Next slide. So it is like basically why we require a shared mobility is we have to reduce the congestion because of too much vehicles in road. As you know, many countries they have adopted to like one day petrol engines and another day diesel engine. Or some companies have adopted like one day one even vehicle numbers will travel and another day odd number vehicle license number will travel. By after so much of effort also, there is a lot of traffic congestion, lot of vehicle on road, which is also adding up to the pollution. So in order to reduce the number of vehicles in the road, we can always share the vehicle. Like you already know about Ola or BlaBlaCar or Zoom car. So many people will able to share this mobility. So this shared mobility segment is also in a boom right now, but it is more of like a computer or electronics background than mechanical is involved. So it is more about networking and how you are creating the program. So this part, like you have to develop yourself, but this is also a segment which is currently in a boom in automobile sector. Next slide. So I think everybody know about electrical vehicle, like electric vehicle. How we have been hearing from past like 5 years, like anytime the electric vehicle can be on road, and anytime we can all the petrol and diesel cars, all the IC engine basically will be changed with to electric vehicle. So we will discuss more about what are the types of electric mobility and where are we currently now in electrical vehicle segment. Next slide. So basically, there are four types. So fuel cell is which uses the fuel cell technology. So it uses a hydrogen as its base. So hydrogen will interact with the fuel cell and it will produce power. The residue of this is only water vapor actually. So it will be only water we are getting, which is very very harmless. So fuel cell, but the constraint with fuel cell is that it has like first I will go with the advantage. Like it has many advantage. Like it is abundant, as you know, hydrogen is abundant and it has zero emission. It is kind of best. It has best efficiency when compared to IC. Like IC engine, if it can give a 33% efficiency, fuel cell can go with around 60 to 65% efficiency. So there are many advantages of fuel cell, but there are many disadvantages also. Hydrogen storing is a big task which we need to focus more because hydrogen has to be stored and it requires some very good infrastructure setup and cost. Secondly, is though hydrogen is abundant in the atmosphere, but getting hydrogen manufactured is manufacturing facility requires a lot of cost. So and hydrogen, as you all know, like it can be easily leaking, and so the storage and transportation also plays a major role in fuel cell technology. So maybe like some 10-15 years apart, we will have more cars which is enabled with fuel cell, but it is a technology of the future. So electric vehicles has came already, but fuel cell is like it will come in the future. So if you are preparing to go for some interview, I bet you can prepare more on electric vehicle and much better in fuel cell. Electric vehicle, as you all know, that it basically works in lithium ion battery. Uh, Previous slide. Previous slide, please. So battery is like it will work in lithium ion battery, and it uses the technology to generate the power. So it is also very harmless, and it is been developing. The only constraint we have is the cost of battery which we have right now. So there are many research which are going to develop a much cheaper battery at much readily available battery. And hybrid, you already know, it is like using both IC and battery. Wherever battery power is available, we'll use the battery power. And whenever there is more speed required or the battery power is insufficient, we'll go with IC engine output. Next slide, please. So there was, as I told you, there are some pros and cons. Pros are eco-friendly, less maintenance, and it is a renewable source. Cons are we are not developed yet. We don't have the infrastructure yet, so it is more expensive. Recharging, we don't have everywhere the recharge station as we have the petrol bunk. So that is also time consuming, and we can't go for a long drive with this. But as it's some 10 years apart, we will have more station where we can could recharge it, and we will have more technology for that. Next slide. So these are some mindset like customer my forecast, like what really matters to them. So according to that, 56% customers want lower emission and environment friendly. So the days are past where we like more of vehicle brand, or we required more mileage and looks. But now everybody is concerned about environment. Everybody is concerned about the post car buying cost, which is the operation cost or service cost. So with this technology, the electric technology is apt for this current scenario. Next slide. So what are the concern of customer? If you see that mostly all the customers are concerned about lack of charging infrastructure. As I told you that we don't have the availability of charging station like we have a petrol bunk. So this is somewhat more dependent on the government side, whether they are allowing any company to establish a infrastructure to charge the electric vehicle. So it is like together government and some private companies have to check in this. And there are some safety concerns too, because one or two cases the battery got blasted. But it is like it is depends on many factors, and already there are many checking and development in that area also. So I think safety concerns will be eliminated in some 5 years from now. And time required to charge already time required has been brought down very drastically. Like there are now electric vehicles which give up to 500 kilometer or 400 kilometer in a single charge. So if I think if the charging infrastructure comes, automatically the time required to charge will go down. Range also same. Next slide. So long term, if you see, long term we have hydrogen fuel cell and electric. So as I told you before, like if future is, I think more than electric, it will be fuel cell. So the days will be counted for electric vehicle. But once hydrogen fuel cell comes into play, I think more people will try buying hydrogen fuel cell because of its efficiency and easier because of no charging, much charging required. So that's why I want I would recommend you to study in deep about electric vehicle and hydrogen fuel cell also. Next slide. Okay, so that's all for our session. Anyone has any query, suggestion, or anything, you can please share.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please, Vishal.
Sir, what do you think about the job opportunities of Industry 4.0, sir? Will it decrease or will it remain the same?
No. It will increase actually. It will increase because of this pandemic. Industry 4.0 basically has a PLC and every setup where robot will be more into use than human manpower. So because of this pandemic, what happened is 4.0 was actually it was forecasted to come in around some 2030 in that time. But because of this pandemic, it has came very early, and now all the trust me, all the top companies, automobile companies, are having a separate department for industry 4.0 and deep learning. So as I told you earlier, if you focus more on industry 4.0 and deep learning along with your mechanical skill, there are much higher chance for you to get into this company.
Okay, sir. What about solid state batteries, sir? When will it commercially be available? Within how many years?
See, solid state battery actually right now electric vehicle itself it is not projected for 2025. It is projected to come at around 2030 because of lack of infrastructure and battery. Its solid state battery is also developing because it has also many disadvantage of battery issues. So there is no much raw material available for that. So that is also a cause of concern. So I think solid state fuel cell will be in a post electric vehicle era, and maybe around some maybe 20 post 2040 and all. So right now all are saying that electric vehicle has came, but though the automobile companies are ready with electric vehicle, you can see that there is no infrastructure around us. If you want to charge, you have to come to home, or you have to go to some mall or some noted places. but people won't be ready for that, because in your day-to-day travel commuting, you can't go to a particular place for charging, or you can't charge it every day at night at home. So I think some 5 to 6 years may be required for developing infrastructure. But trust me, automobile industries are ready with electric vehicle. As soon as the infrastructure is ready, the electric vehicles will be launched one by one.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me,
Any
sir.
other queries? Yes.
Yeah. Sir, as you told about the electric vehicles right now, okay, like those problems that the customers are facing actually. But I want to ask, like, what are the private industries and the government, like, how they are dealing with these problems, and what new aspects are going to be discussed further?
Yeah. So that's a good question actually. As I told you, like in infrastructure point of view, you as a private company, you cannot directly go and start a charging station in road, because it requires many sanctions, many approval. This electric has to come from large transformer. It has to convert into 12 volt actually, because 12 volt, 34 volt, or 40 volt. How much is your electric? For example, Hyundai Kona, which we produced, was 30 watt, so it has to come to that volt. So the transportation of current, the setting up of charging station, converting that voltage to the voltage which we require, all this require a proper guideline and a proper government sanction to go. So most of the companies has already contacted government and asked them to set up or ask them to give a sanction or a guideline, develop a guideline. But there are some delay in part of government also, and there are some delay in the part in private companies also. The delay mostly in private companies is because of the raw material for lithium and battery. The raw material, as you know, is coming only from China. All China is the superior provider of raw material in case of lithium and battery. So developing another battery like Tesla is already under development. So Tesla has its own battery right now. So developing our own battery and getting the raw material cheaply is a part where a private company is more focusing about. But safety part, I think already all the companies have are already testing and already developing. So common person basic requirement was infrastructure and safety. So safety part, I think maybe within 5 years it will be all sorted out. Infrastructure is with the government's help only we will be able to go forward.
So, sir, like, with all these solutions, will the cost of the electric vehicles will actually be increased as compared to the now conventional vehicles?
No, the cost of the electric vehicle you can't directly relate it to IC engine. Why? Because IC engine, as you know, the mileage or the efficiency is very low. So if you buy a car, electric vehicle, and if you compare directly it to a IC engine, it will be higher. It will be definitely higher. But if you calculate the long run or total life of an IC engine car and total life of an electric car, then the electric car will prove 50% more profitable for you, because like I told you, IC engine gives only 33% efficiency. So the cost you are spending in fuel like petrol or diesel is eliminated in case of electric, which is giving around 50 to 60% of efficiency. And you can only you have only to charge, right? So the charging rate will, the electricity rate will also be cheaper, and the maintenance cost is almost negligible in case of electric vehicle. So you can't directly compare 1:1, but if you compare the total life of a car, then electric will be much profitable than IC engine. And already, I think many companies have, like Hyundai, when it launched Kona, its first electric car, it was around 24 lakhs. But if you see the Tata Nexon, they have made it much cheaper with localization to around 12 to 13 lakhs. So all companies are also trying to bring it to that rate. I think it will be at some point of time it will be much cheaper than IC engine. But right now it will be more costly. But don't compare 1:1.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
And thank you, Vishnu. So today's session is very informative as well as very useful for our students. So I also extend a note of thanks to Vishnu, manager Hyundai Motors Limited, for accepting our invitation and spending time with us. So explained clearly about the recent trends as well as the future plans in the automotive industry. So thank you all.
Yeah, I also want to thank each and every one of you. Actually, it was very interactive session, and I was very happy to listen to all the students, like more of queries, and I want to say all the best to all of you. I hope you all get into a good industry, and please be free to contact at any time. I will share my mail ID with Gnanashekhar, so please feel free, and all the best, and prepare for future. Be well expertise in present and prepare for the future. So that is the slogan you have to go through. Thank you all.